Welcome to the first episode of Juan's World, my new video blog on YouTube. I am going to be talking about a number of subjects and I hope I'm going to be posting twice a week. I'm not sure right now because my videography skills are virtually non-existent, as are my editing skills. I have a pretty good professional editor, but it's not the easiest to use, and it's going to take me some time. Anyway, I'm going to cover a range of topics. There'll be some travel stuff, some cooking stuff, some philosophy, mathematics, science, religion, who knows. I'm a professional anthropologist by trade. I taught at the college at Purchase in the State University of New York system for 35 years and retired 10 years ago, largely because I was doing more administration than teaching, and I wanted to be a teacher, not an administrator. So I retired and moved back home to Buenos Aires, where I was born. My full name is Juan Alejandro Foreste Sloper, but my parents were British, and if you look me up on Google, you won't find much under Juan Alejandro. You will find my other blogs. I've got two. There's Cook's Book of Days, or Book of Days Tales, and Passion, Intellect, Persistence, which you'll find links to down below. Book of Days Tales was a daily blog for 6 years about daily anniversaries, but with a recipe for the day from all around the world. So I'll be doing some cooking for you. Passion, Intellect, Persistence was more about spirituality, religion, science, what have you. And that's still going, and I'm hoping for these video blogs and that written blog to work in conjunction with one another, so that if you are happy to read, then you can read that blog. If you prefer to sit and watch me ramble on, well, then you can do it here. So my first blogs, I expect, are going to be on the nature of work, vocation, happiness, and so forth, because that's what the Passion, Intellect, Persistence blog posts are about right now, and it's also the subject of my latest book. I've actually got 3 books in the works right now. One of them will be coming out next year. It's called The Genesis Option, or at least it's tentatively called The Genesis Option. My publisher wants me to change it so that it's clear that it's about anthropology. You see, the thing is that I am a professional anthropologist, but I'm also an ordained Presbyterian minister. I have a degree in theology from Oxford, as well as a PhD in anthropology, and I studied anthropology at both Oxford University and at the University of North Carolina. So I have 2 strings to my bow, if you like. Actually, I probably have more, but we'll take those 2 as a starting point. I'm an ordained minister, and I'm also a professional anthropologist, and I'm interested in the intersection between anthropology and religion, particularly the Bible. So the Genesis Option is my anthropological reading of Genesis, the story of creation, the story of the flood, the Tower of Babel, and the patriarchs, particularly Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, but also Joseph. It wanders over a pretty fair scene. My publisher wants me to retitle it something like An Anthropologist Looks at Genesis, to make it clear that it's an anthropological perspective. So we'll talk about those kinds of things. We'll talk about other aspects of religion. In particular, I want to talk about the non-debate, or I think of it as a pseudo-debate between religion and science. As far as I'm concerned, the people who argue about religion versus science either don't understand religion or don't understand science. So I'm hoping that my videos here will help clarify my position on this. The simple take is, when you say religion is, anything that follows that is going to be nonsense. Because religion is a very, very broad topic. And people mostly, when they say, oh, I believe religion is such and so, what they mean is that the religion that I was taught growing up, you know, maybe I was Jewish or Catholic or Protestant or whatever, and I rejected that, and so therefore religion in general is such and such, is nonsense, or causes war, or causes bigotry, or whatever. Well, I just don't like those kinds of statements, because they are very, very general. I'd much rather talk about specific beliefs within religions and talk about things like what God is in different religions, what spirituality is, what ritual practice is, and get away from very, very general terms that I think just don't help anybody. Which leads to the more overarching aim of this video blog, which is to help people in critical thinking. So that instead of making bald, overgeneral statements and emotionally charged statements, they actually think a little bit more. That's my overarching goal. And I'm also just going to do a little cooking because I like cooking, and I'm going to show you some travel videos. Like, here's a travel video from Borneo from last month. Oh, and here's some pictures of my travels. I traveled to 10 countries last year and had a good time, mostly. So here's some pictures. I'm also going to do a little cooking. When I do cooking, chances are my philosophy creeps in as I'm doing it, because I think that everything is related to everything else, and so cooking is related to spirituality in certain ways, and travel in certain ways, and my writing, and so on. So here's a little clip of my cooking taken in Buenos Aires 5 years ago, in the days when I knew even less about videography and I didn't have a tripod, so I had to hold the camera in one hand and cook with the other hand, and so it was not terribly successful. This is making a batter for a tortilla.
All right, so this is part one of a three-part series on how to make a classic Argentine tortilla. And here I have the necessary equipment and ingredients to make the batter, which needs to be made first because it needs to rest whilst you do the rest of the preparation. And what we have is a mixing bowl, 3 eggs, half a cup of flour, some salt, and cold water. I have the water in a kettle because I'm doing this one-handed whilst I film, and I just need a quick way to be able to get the water in. It's not in a kettle because it's warm or anything like that. Okay, so we start off by putting the flour into the bowl, and then we're going to add water rather slowly because we don't want to get this too thin. I'm just going to add a little bit, maybe about as much water as the flour, and I'm going to whisk it round, and in fact that is just about perfect. You can see it's actually quite thick. It's going to be thinned by the eggs, so that's good enough. Now you can add also a little bit of salt. I'm not going to because I don't cook with salt, but it's not such a bad idea if you do. And now I'm going to add the eggs. I'm going to add them one at a time, and if I can, and beat well. Okay, you can see that now the batter is thinning down to more or less the consistency of thick cream. And one more egg. And voila, we're done. Now, it's important to make the batter first because it ought to rest for anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes before you actually cook it. So if you make the batter first, you can put it aside. There's no need to refrigerate it, but just put it aside and let it rest and give it a little whisk when you're ready to make the tortilla. Okay, we'll go on to part 2 in a little bit, which is cooking the filling.
And here's some pictures of my cooking. Okay, you get the general idea. Twice a week, I hope I will post these, and we'll start with vocation, work, and happiness next time. So hope to see you in a few days.